Bryce Mitchell is finally making his debut at bantamweight, and it makes sense because he was a relatively middleweight at featherweight due to his physique being quite average and him not having much muscle. So he didn't cut that much weight compared to the people he has fought. The only problem with moving down in weight is that a lighter man's skill is very real, and he is not facing a bum in his debut. Said Nurmagomedov is an excellent fighter for the division and went into a war with Vinicius Oliveira, who is the hottest prospect in the division right now. Said has some cardio issues, but skills-wise, he is as good as anybody in the world, really, but cardio has always been his problem. I think he can give Bryce Mitchell some problems because Nurmagomedov is a very fast fighter and also has great grappling, so normally Mitchell's way to win may be negated by the lighter man's skill. We also saw how Gene Silva was able to catch Mitchell in a ninja choke or DRs, I forget which one it was, but I have seen said Nurmagomedov hit the same chokes. And this could pose a threat to Bryce Mitchell when he shoots for takedowns and shows his neck. My final prediction for this fight is for said Nurmagomedov to win by decision and show why moving down is not always the best option. We got Nikita Krylov returning pretty soon after he got slumped by Dominic Reyes at UFC 314, I believe. And it is usually not recommended for someone to come back from a bad knockout like that after only 3 months because you are not recovered properly. I think that Nikita Krylov was never really that good because he built most of his career beating up guys who are past their prime, and he's not even good since he is 11-8 in the UFC, which is a record of a journeyman. But he has somehow been ranked for a good amount of time now. I think that another thing to be considered for Krylov versus Guskov is that Krylov was out of the octagon for 2 years before losing to Reyes. Guskov is also a rising prospect who has some good grappling and some nasty power in his hands. I think that Guskov has a good chance to make a name for himself out of Krylov, who is still ranked highly even though he has not proved to be that level for a while, and I find it even crazier that Guskov is actually plus money for this fight. I think my final prediction for this fight is going to be Bogdan Guskov to win this fight by TKO in the first round. Asu Almabiev is coming back from his controversial loss versus Manel Kape, where he was finished in the 3rd round. The reason why that fight is so disputed is because he got eye poked like 5 times, and he got eye poke comboed, which led to the fight being ruled a TKO for Manel Kape. I think that fight ended up losing a bunch of hype for Almabiev, but he is still only 31 years old, and he was on the rise while being relatively active. Meanwhile, he is taking on a guy in Jose Ochoa who is 1-1 in the UFC and is taking a risky fight like this on short notice, and he has like a third of the experience that Asu Almabiev has. The one hope that Jose has for this fight is that it stays on the feet because Asu is a smaller guy, and he still seems a little afraid on the feet and not as confident in his stand-up. So he has to be ready for the threat that Asu presents when he mixes it up. I think that the betting odds on this one are interesting, and I don't know why this fight is a pick'em because I feel that Asu Almabiev should be around a -200 for this fight. My final prediction for this fight is that Asu Almabiev will win this fight by decision. Sharabullet Magomedov is returning this weekend, and it is no surprise that he is returning in Abu Dhabi because I doubt anywhere else would let him fight with just one good eye. He is returning to face the Canadian powerbar, also known as the original Marauder, Marc-Andre Barriault. This fight is going to be elevated to the featured bout now that Movsar Evloev is out of the co-main event. Marc-Andre Barriault is coming off a win, but it was against Bruno Silva, who is the most washed fighter in the UFC right now. Before that, he was coming off 2 KO losses where he was put out cold. Barriault is only good at walking forward and trying to throw down in the pocket, but we have seen him get caught multiple times before and just been sat down with his face on the canvas. He is not young anymore, he is 35 and has taken a bunch of damage. Sharabullet is coming off a loss, but it was to one of the fastest strikers in the UFC, MVP, so I can excuse him for that. Plus, we have seen Sharabullet deal with people who like to just walk forward, and since Sharabullet has good footwork, this fight is going to end up like the Mikhail Alexhanov fight. But I don't know if Marc-Andre will be able to handle the amount of strikers the same way Mikhail did. My final prediction for this fight is that Sharabullet Magomedov will win this fight by 2nd round TKO. I think we all have to give a round of applause for Petr Yan because he is taking on number 12 or 13 ranked Marcus McGee when there isn't any reason for him to do so other than stay active while Merab goes to defend his title against Corey Sandhagen. Petr Yan has shown countless times just how technical a fighter he truly is. He has the deepest bag in the UFC because he has some of the cleanest boxing, nice kicks, and very creative takedowns and trips in close. The one thing holding him back is that we have seen him injured quite a few times coming into a fight, which is why he is usually inactive. but I believe he has a big skill advantage coming into the octagon against Marcus. Marcus McGee is a pretty short but stocky guy for 135 pounds, and that is seen by his frame. He usually likes to stay around the boxing range, which has worked when he faced guys like Jonathan Martinez, but that will not work against Petr Yan because Petr Yan is one of the few guys in MMA who uses a very high guard like a boxer does, and it deflects lots of the punches that come his way. I think that Marcus McGee is definitely slower than Yan as well, and even though Marcus is new to the rankings and is rising, he is already 35 years old, and it is now or never for him. My final prediction for this co-main event is that Petr Yan will win the fight by decision. We've got Robert Whittaker taking on Reinier de Ridder in UFC Abu Dhabi this weekend for the main event, and it's still funny to me because RDR is a couple of months older than Whittaker, who has been around forever. This fight is much more about the number 12 guy versus the number 5 guy because Robert Whittaker has only lost to world champions while at middleweight, which includes DDP, Izzy, and now possibly Khamzat. Now, RDR is a unique threat in the rankings because he is an older fighter with a few UFC fights under his belt, but he is a former One Championship double champion who is very large for the weight class and also tall. He reminds me a lot of Dricus du Plessis because RDR is also very clunky and maybe does not look very good, but so far in the UFC, he has won cleanly in all 3 of his fights. RDR is a dangerous grappler, but Whittaker is one of the fastest strikers in the division, so RDR needs to get to the clinch to use effective strikes. I think that Whittaker can do his accredited blitz and catch RDR, who is somewhat slow on the feet, and who knows just how good his chin will be with such a huge weight cut. I think my final prediction for this fight is going to be Robert Whittaker to win by 3rd round TKO. I think he's gonna outstrike and speedmog him in this fight, and eventually one is going to be super clean and finish the job off.